Hello, Stephen White, Steve Arts 89. While I was having a look at my Batman stuff, I thought I'd look at the rest of my limited Batman collection. Now, I was interested in the Batman films up until about the third film, so that's all I've got. But I mean, this, of course, the comic adaptation of the original Tim Burton Batman. I remember spending so much time looking at this book over and over again. I know every page. And that's kind of what happens when you grew up in the 80s or 90s. You basically spend a lot of time looking at comics and books and storybooks and Viewmasters or anything you could get to revisit a movie or a TV series that you loved. Because once it was off the air and out of the cinema, you didn't see it again. Unless it was released on video or DVD, which sometimes took a long time, or showed up on TV. And sometimes if you lived in a small town with its own TV station, or a TV station that didn't have a lot of money and spent a lot of money on syndication as opposed to, God, unfortunately I tried to make it more accurate because they didn't have enough blood on the page like it was in the movie, so I got my mum's lipstick and there you go. I need to buy a new version. I coloured in some of the Joker's lips and a few other things which I thought were inaccurate. But yeah, this is pretty prized to me. And anyone I think who has the older stuff from the first Batman movie, they're far more valuable than the stuff that came out for the later one. Well, the art's great. Covers everything important to the movie. Everyone looks as they should. Some adaptions don't pay for the likenesses of the actors, and they're just these generic characters, these generic people that don't look like the actors, don't look like the characters. It's very strange to see sometimes, particularly some of the Transformers adaptions from the first Michael Bay films were like that. It was very strange. And again, I added more blood. I just didn't think the Joker had enough blood. Probably wouldn't notice that though, unless you're really familiar with the comic. Yeah, I mean, look at that. That's just beautiful. So these were basically the standard newsagents hardcover, trade paperback editions, which pretty much everyone had, but they seemed very special at the time. And they also they had a fair amount of merchandise, but one of the few things I managed to get besides some of the toys was the official movie book, which of course chronicles the development of the movie. It goes right back to the history, of course, of Batman. And I actually haven't looked through this that many times. But if you don't have this, you're getting a little look inside. I'd suggest you buy it if you're a Batman fan and you actually like the Tim Burton films. There's so much information and behind the scenes images. I mean, okay, it's standard for a official book of the movie or movie souvenir book. They all follow the same formula, but I mean, look at that. But yes, it's different now. I'm kind of becoming really aware of that the more I look at my collection, that so much of the stuff that I would buy would be to try and sort of recapture the magic of seeing the film or seeing the TV series or whatever it is, because it was limited. It wasn't just available on YouTube or streaming or available to buy on Blu-ray or 4K HD or whatever. And you needed all the supplementary material, and it didn't matter if it didn't quite match or if it wasn't accurate. As long as you get back into that universe or that world, that was what it was there for. A lot of the movie adaptions and comic adaptions and things weren't accurate because they were done from scripts before they were finished, or information about the movie before it was finished, or the TV show while it was in production, and we didn't care, it didn't matter. Whereas now, everything has to be perfect, and it has to fit the narrative of the studio, what the studio's putting out about whatever movie or show at that particular time. But the best part, I think, is looking at the design of the film, which they don't spend enough of in this. But I mean, you get a look at how the Batmobile, the movie magazines, which I should have a look at as well, they went into the same areas and had similar detail. And we're nearly at the end of this one. Batman Returns, they did the same thing. They had a nice trade paperback, which felt like a hardcover. If you grew up buying the regular comics, when you found a book that was a trade, it seemed very special. Now the art for this, well, I wasn't as impressed. It was nice, but it didn't have the same level of detail and realism. I mean, it does, but the detail makes the difference for me. And I didn't like the story itself. I didn't like the Penguin as much as the Joker. I love Catwoman though. And the production was more beautiful than the original, but it was different. And the production of that, how dark it was its own thing. So this more contrasty black and white sort of Dark Knight at Christmas sort of look that Burton did for Batman Returns, it was its own thing. And I'm not quite sure how Batman Returns rates compared to the original and how people consider it, but I always consider them together and watch them together, and as we know, things changed after that. Back's more beautiful than the front, artwork wise. I love it when you get things like this when you buy t-shirts and stuff, so I always use them as bookmarks. And of course we've got the same making of book, all the behind the scenes pictures and sketches, and I've met Tim Burton. I've seen his artwork in person, and it's very interesting too. It's very simplistic, and he doesn't seem to have a lot of skill as an actual visual artist like drawing, but he worked in Disney. He was one of the animators, and he's created such beautiful films and such beautiful work and interesting work and iconic work. It's bizarre to think that he actually might not have the best drawing skills. But I guess that's not the important part. You can always get someone to redefine or redraw or ink a drawing. It's about the idea and the vision, which of course he always had. And the production of Batman Returns was pretty good. I didn't quite like the less realistic Batsuit. Like, I mean, the idea was the first one, he was a creature of the night, it was supposed to be his skin. The second one, it was more clear that it was indeed armour, which I felt kind of undermined the Dark Knight. He's a monster. Narrative, I guess, that they had in the first film. I mean, I love the Penguin's lair. It reminded me a lot of the Addams Family and Addams Family Values. Just the gothic nature of the architecture, it's all beautiful no matter how you look at it. And I guess there was a lot of blue. The first Batman was a bit more natural earth tones and warm colours, even though it was very dark. This definitely went with the cooler tones for the winter. So that's that. Now we get to Batman Forever. Now, Val Kilmer was hot, so I didn't mind him as Batman. And the art itself, the comic book, is quite good. Adaptation. I believe there was a trade version, the soft cover. I keep wanting to say hardcover because it's, you know. But I never saw it and don't have it. But I do have this edition. But this is where my collection for the movie stops. Because, yes, they changed. And as we know now, the studios wanted to sell toys. So they said, make a toy movie. Make the characters look like the toys. We want it to be like a cartoon. Which was kind of going back to what the original Batman 66 series was. And the point of The Dark Knight was to get away from that. So, although it kind of had its own people watching it and liking it, you know, the people who like the Burton films and not the original series, it didn't hold much appeal for them. So, as we all know, the series declined and we lost it. And then we had a long wait until the boring, overly realistic and dull Christopher Nolan films, which, of course, the normies, the average cinema viewers loved, and they made a lot of money, and kind of killed superhero films, in my opinion, because they lost their uniqueness and they were all just trying to be realistic and gritty and dark and grey and no colour and no fun and no adventure and just no point. Although these films went too far, and then the pendulum swung the other way, and we went from going back to the 60s over the top, too bright cartoon, looking like a cartoony cartoon, to dreary, miserable, drab, grey, flat, terrified to be remotely fun or entertaining. And then ultimately with Batman versus Superman, just really beyond dark. I mean, God, they're trying to kill each other and kill their relatives, and it's just, that's not my Batman, that's not my Superman. So, but production-wise, this film was just on the edge. It went a bit too far, but it still had some really beautiful scenes and really interesting what do we call it, set pieces. But it sort of was on the edge and then went too far pretty much within itself, and then the next film went too far and the next film went too far, and yeah, I've already said where that went. If you don't already know that, well, now you do. I find I can watch the whole series, but that's because I know where it's going. I know the style. If I, when it first released, you just wanted more of the Burton Batman, and when you didn't get it, it was disappointing and underwhelming and a little bit insulting. But I've sort of gotten over it and used to it. So I can watch the films more now. And I do like Alicia Silverstone. Of course, Chris O'Donnell was gorgeous when he was that young. But he doesn't look that different now on NCS or whatever that pop show he's on with LL Cool J. It was nice to see Drew Barrymore in the film because I was always a fan of her. And Debbie Mazar, of course, is awesome. She's always been kind of oddly alternative, just because of her extreme beautiful looks. And of course they do spend some time on the production. It's mostly just, these books are mostly just going through the story and sort of looking at the production behind those story elements, but not going into it too much in depth. So they're mostly just picture books. So it's the official movie book, not necessarily the behind the scenes. Now, since I'm here, I should be looking at the Batman magazine, which of course, because I'm still running my video, I know we're in sight. They should be right there. There they are. God, Sorry about that. You probably just switched off. There's probably no one watching now. But I wasn't planning to look at the magazines, I was going to do the books. But mostly because I've only got Batman and Batman Returns. So I loved this magazine when I got it as a kid. I had this before I had the movie book. And it just had so many images. And of course I just wanted everything I could get on Batman. And it dealt just as much with the production and backstage stuff and design stuff as the movie book. I think it actually went into more detail with the design of the Batmobile. Batcave. Mostly these movie magazines, if you've never bought one, it's the same thing. You basically were trying to capture the essence of the film and be able to stay in the film, and it would keep you interested between the cinema release and the DVD or video release or the next film. And of course, just a way to make more money because you're not just getting the ticket sales. And I also loved the end part where it just looked at the Batman, Batman collections, and looked at the older Batman, which of course I grew up with but didn't know a lot about. But it's funny how much a couple of pages seemed back then. Batman Returns, the same. More pictures. More information. Similar to the making of book. I don't think I ever saw a magazine for the third or fourth films. They probably were created. I just didn't see them. The problem with these is they don't sit up very well. So I have to kind of hold it and turn the pages so it's not as smooth. But yeah, I think, the point of this is just to show, if you don't have this and you're curious, you get to have a look inside. And then if you ever see it on eBay or something, you know if it's worth getting or not. I love looking at other videos of people's collections or their favourite items or new items they're reviewing. Oh, that's right. I had another magazine did a couple of pages on the production design and the sketches. And this little book and poster. I forgot I kept these. Had these for a long time. This, of course, I think it's the movie poster. This movie poster was so popular, they ruined it by having yellow writing because the original was white. People were stealing this. People were breaking the movie poster things, like the things that would hold the posters. They were breaking them and stealing the posters. That's how much people loved the poster art for Batman Returns. And so I kept this little article because it had the pictures of the production design sketches and stuff like that. I forgot they were in there. But yeah, so we see variations. The Bat Missile. And yeah, it's just your usual blow by blow, what happens through the movie. And a little glimpse behind each thing, but they never really go too much into detail. They certainly don't ruin anything, but if you're buying the merchandise, if you're old enough to buy something like this, you know it's not real. If you're a little kid, you probably wouldn't want to see this, or even if you would, you probably wouldn't read it properly anyway if you're really little. So it wouldn't really spoil the illusion that it's real. And this one again had another look at a collector, which just reminded me of the history. So that's my Batman and Batman Returns and Batman Forever collection. And then the other thing is they did do the Batman Automobilia collection of books. And of course I at least got these two. And I guess I may as well go through there. What am I at, 19 minutes? Okay, if you're stuck with me this long, you're going to look at this. So, that's an overview of the whole series. If you don't already have it, haven't looked at it. Basically, each month I did a different Batmobile. I need the 1980 Batmobile. That's like the one that was in the comics that came with the Superpowers toys and the 80s comics. I remember that one. And you get cutaways of the Batmobile. And a little bit of information. This one, of course, is the original 1966 Batmobile, which again, more cutaways. Blueprints, a little bit of information. And they always have a lot of little flyers, and if you order, I don't know if this thing is still even running, how far they've gone, but usually with these sort of things, if you subscribe, you get gifts every month for the first couple of months that you actually subscribed. I usually keep them just to see, because I normally don't get more than a couple of these sort of issues of these sort of magazines, so it's interesting to have those because you end up seeing the collection even if you don't get it. But that's that for my little Batman collection. So thanks for watching. Hopefully you saw something there that you'd always been curious of, and now you know what's in there. And if you want it, go buy it, because if you're a collector, you should have it. Thanks, bye.